Meeting to order for October the 7th. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The roll call: Belzak.
Here.
Gustafson.
Here.
Kenny.
Here.
Legansky.
Here.
Shower. Stompanato.
Here.
Sullivan.
Here.
7 present. We have a quorum. In the absence of Mayor Marquez, we need a nomination for Mayor Pro Tem.
I nominate Joe Kenny.
Do we have a
Second
second?
the nomination.
Okay. Shower motioned and Belzak second. Shower.
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Legansky.
Aye.
Stompanato.
Aye.
We have 7 ayes. Please come forward.
I got more. Sorry. I got more. Yeah. Good evening, council.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, ma'am. Quorum. Next part of the agenda here is questions and comments concerning of a general nature from anybody within the docket. If you have a question, if you have something you'd like to discuss that's not on tonight's agenda, we usually bring those people up and give them a 3-minute opportunity to ask a question or approach a council. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Tricia Spertoli. I've emailed some of you, I think you're Dan over here, about the sidewalks. As part of the concrete replacement program that happened in the spring, May-ish, some of the sidewalks in my neighborhood, I'm in the southwest corner of Darien, 87th and Lamont, where there was no connector. They took the sidewalk end out. So you used to be able to cross into the street and now it just sort of ends. Normally I wouldn't care, but this is where the kids get on the bus. And now they either have to get on from the street or in the grass. And it rains, it snows. I cannot ask my corner neighbor to please plow a nice area through his grass. There's about 7 kids who get on the bus there. And so I emailed at the time and I said, why? Where did these go? And I was told that when the sidewalk didn't have both sides where you could cross, it was considered a liability and that the city went through and got rid of them. So my question is, why not build the connector? My question was, why not build the connector? And I was told that the people across the street, their house would be like fronted. So you'd essentially be crossing into their front. When it was just the one side, it was still the same thing. It was still facing the front. So we had a lot of back and forth. And ultimately where we ended up was, could we shift the sidewalk a few feet to the left, essentially, if I'm looking there. The city came out a couple weeks ago. They dug it. They put in the framing for the concrete. And then the neighbor said, I don't want that on my side of the street. And so the project stopped and it got all filled up. I sent an email out earlier today that maybe some of you have seen with some photos in there, the way it looked originally with just the one side. And then when it was framed out, showing, looking across the street, how it wasn't looking in anyone's front lawn, in their front window. It was not even really fronting their house at all. And so my request is, let's stop wasting the money because now we've taken them out, we've redug them, we've refilled them. Can we get to some consensus on having something accessible for the children that isn't them standing in the street or in the grass? My kids have been in District 66 since 2015, and that has been their bus stop since 2016. I have a 4th grader, so I still have many years in the district. If anyone doesn't have those photos and they'd like to see them, I can get them emailed out too.
Okay.
Yeah, I did not receive them, yeah.
All right.
I did notice in my spam filter, I had, usually the next day, your emails would come up, so everybody just needs to check their spam also.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I just, is there any chance that the school can just maybe change the bus stop to another spot close to there that makes sense? I mean, I don't want to make it more difficult, but
Sure.
has that
So
been
both-
asked, has that been approached?
Yeah, well, High Crest it's a tiny street.
Sure.
And the sidewalk connectors on both sides were removed. So the only other option would be to go all the way down to, I don't know if anyone knows my neighborhood, you'd have to go to Woodvale or Meadow, and they're both 10, 15 houses away. So yeah, I mean, could the kids move it? Could the bus move it? Yes, but further down on Woodvale, they're having the same problem. That's where their stops were, has now become sidewalk. And as someone who walks my dogs, I cannot tell you how much it hurts me to have to walk through the grass.
Especially in winter time, right?
Right, yes. I hope it doesn't snow, but I'll be out there with my shovel digging out the neighbor's grass.
All right, we'll check our emails tomorrow for
All
you,
right,
okay?
thank you for listening.
Thank you.
You got it. Go ahead.
Ray Jablonski, President, Darien Park District Board of Commissioners. Just want to make sure that everybody got the email with the letter attached. And if anybody has any questions, best thing to do is reply back to Stephanie as Alderperson Sullivan and Alderperson Kenny have already done. We'll be happy to answer any questions or clarify anything or provide any more information. We just want to make sure when you guys are going through your strategic planning that you have timely and accurate information to work from. So that we don't end up with statements like we're in poor financials state that get out into the public, get into the patch 5 or 6 times and have people questioning whether or not that's accurate or not, because it certainly is not. So appreciate anybody has any follow-ups, please contact Stephanie and we'll get you whatever other information that we need. Okay, thank you.
Can I ask something?
Go-
Ray?
yeah, go.
Thank you. So Ray, did you, obviously, under the initiatives, the objective is to work with and collaborate with the Park District, the city. And I commend the Park District, the executive director, the board members who took the time to read through everything, which is great. Obviously, that's how you found some of the comments that had been made in interviews or in collaborations during the preparation of the plan. But I just hope that in the end, no matter what, that we can achieve the strategic initiative of working with the Park District moving forward, obviously, as we did this year. Okay, great.
All right, thank you.
Dan, you want to
Thank you.
state your name?
Luann Spiros, also with the Park District as well. But first, I want to say thank you. I want you to know how I appreciate all that you guys do. You contribute to our community. You guys have hard jobs, and we really value your contribution. And just to echo also what Ray had shared, some of the specifics, we're not sure exactly kind of where the details inside the strategic plan. Sometimes that's facilitated programs like that before. Sometimes people have all sorts of comments, which maybe might have validity to them. But we really want to make sure that, maybe back to kind of this, the poor financial situation comment, have a balanced budget, continue to have a balanced budget, predicting to have a balanced budget, as well as the bond rating. Again, AA, stable, very good. We're quite proud of the fact that as an agency, we're fiscally responsible and that it's going well. So we wanted to make sure that that was just highlighted here. Also, the Sportsplex, for example, many people don't know that there are no tax dollars levied for the Sportsplex. It stands alone, so which is really quite commendable. And also from a revenue standpoint, we do not receive other state or federal funding, and also just want to make sure we're clear. We don't know where the details or where those comments came from, but so I want you to know we appreciate all that you're doing and make sure that we're all clear on the same page. Thank you.
Thank you, Luann.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience have any questions for the council this evening? Okay, with none, we will go to the approval of minutes from September 16th, 2024. Any changes or deletions for the minutes? If none, I'm looking for a motion to approve. Approved first by Alderman Stompanato. Do I have a second? By Alderman Belzak. And the roll.
Stompanato.
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Leganski. 7 ayes.
Okay, the motion passes. Receiving of communications. Do any of the alderpersons have communications to share this evening? Alderperson Sullivan?
Thank you. I did receive some communications regarding some damage in areas of my ward by US Postal Service trucks that have, especially in cul-de-sacs with the rounded corners. They, frustrated residents who are attempting to contact the Postal Service branch that over there on Madison and Willowbrook that services our area, and not getting much of a response, trying to, come to some agreement with how the mail person is approaching their mailbox to not damage their property. I did reach out to Dan and Chris Thram and their team, who have given, a willingness to help repair the areas and also some advice on how to put some things along the curb area to curtail further damage. So I am gonna, myself attempt on behalf of the residents too, to reach out to the postal, people, the management team over there, and see if, something can be done. But even today I heard from another area in, the Carriageway West, Carriage Greens neighborhood that was having issues too.
I noticed one of my mailboxes in my ward at Darien Club is down, and they've got a sign on it to bring the mail up to the door, so maybe that's along the same lines.
This is more like grass and like roadway versus the actual mailbox, but it's just, people are, wanting to keep up their lawns nice and things like that, so. And then just wanted to thank Dan and the team for the communication. We've, we're like beating a dead horse sometimes with our IDOT things, but he worked really hard to push for the Lamont Street project that had been completed clearly for quite some time, but the barricades and the road repair items were still scattered about, lingering much longer than they needed to, I'm sure at the cost of our taxpayers. So Dan did finally get them to remove it, and it looks so much better. And we're hoping to get clarity soon on what's going to be transpiring on the Cass Avenue Bridge and the work done there, because they've started to put up some barricades and potential ramp closures will happen. So as soon as we know, information will be sent out.
Just to comment on I-55 Cass Avenue, at this point, we're presuming that it's the bridge decking, painting,
Underneath.
sandblasting. Believe it or not, IDOT, no one from IDOT can give us an answer what's going on. Obviously,
I believe it.
out there.
They're already staging for it.
It's my understanding they're working at night. So,
So they're leaving you in the dark too?
Oh, yeah. Bada boom.
I'm just jealous, Eric, because you came up with it before I did, okay? Do we have any more communications this evening? Okay, with none, we'll go to the mayor's report, and 2 items on this evening's mayor's report. Our police pension actuary report, Foster and Foster. Jason, are you ready?
Thank you. Jason Franken with Foster and Foster. I'm here today to discuss the actuarial valuation of the police pension fund as of May 1st, 2024. I almost said 14, but a decade later than that. I believe you have a copy. Page 5 of the report summarizes the results of the recommended contribution for this year. And you'll see that there was a fairly sizable increase to the contribution. It went from $2,590,000 to $2,971,000, an increase of about $381,000. There's a handful of things that went into that. One, just the pension ramp. Things are designed to increase. It's just the way that the Illinois Pension Code is set up. About $70,000 of the increase is due to that, just the sort of the normal increase that's expected each year. Additionally, there were more active employees this year. That added about $74,000 to it. The normal cost is higher. The normal cost, that's the value of the benefits that are being earned by the active employees. So when there's more people, there's more pension benefits that are being earned. The investment, there was a loss this year. We had been assuming a 7% return. Keep in mind, we smooth investment gains over a 5-year period. So even though the return in this particular year that ended on April 30th of 2024, we earned about 9.7%. But on a smooth basis, we had 2 bad years prior to that. And so we have unrecognized investment losses. And so on a smooth basis, we only got a 5% return versus the 7% return we were expecting. So that led to an increase of about $60,000 in the contribution. The last piece, and this is the biggest piece, as part of this valuation, we changed our investment return assumption. We had been using 7%. We lowered it to 6.8%. And as a result of lowering your expected investment income, your liability goes up because it's going to take more contributions to meet all of the future obligations of the plan when you lower your investment return assumption. And so that change to that assumption, it did increase the contribution requirement by about $150,000. So like I said, that was the biggest piece, biggest component of the change. On page 8, just looking at the bottom 2 rows of numbers, the right column is where we were last year. The middle column shows where we were before the assumption change of lowering our investment return assumption, and the left-hand column shows where we ended up. And you'll see that your unfunded liability was $25.6 million. It went up to $27.1 million this year before any changes, and then after the change, that change added about $1.6 million to your unfunded liability. So you ended up just over $28.7 million. From a funded ratio perspective, there was a slight decrease due to the experience going from 58.2 to 57.8, but then a 1.4% hit as a result of lowering that investment return assumption. So you end up this year at 56.4% for the funded ratio. And then the last item before I open it up to questions on page 10, this shows the development of contribution requirements year over year. The normal cost, those are the value of the benefits that are being earned. You'll see that was $861 this year. It's $984 this year. The administrative expenses, those are the expenses that are paid for the operation of the plan. That's part of our contribution. And then, the payment to amortize your unfunded liability, and that leads to the total recommended contribution. Then we offset that with member contributions that are expected from the plan. So that you'll see here, without the assumption change, the contribution would have been $2.822 million, but with that assumption change, we end up at the $2,971,000 that I discussed earlier. So I guess that wasn't quite the last thing. The one thing to keep in mind here is that the contribution requirement with the we're developing is based on funding your plan to target a 100% funded ratio. That's the the financially sound approach. You're not ignoring some of your liability. The Illinois Pension Code does allow the statutory minimum contribution amount, the amount that you can legally contribute is less than what we're showing here, because that only targets a 90% funded ratio in 2040. And if you were funding on that basis, the contribution would be considerably lower because you have that lower target. Granted, ultimately you would pay more over time because that unfunded liability that you're ignoring is compounding with interest, and by the time you get to 2040, it would lead to a significantly larger contributions. But just for your reference, the contribution, the statutory minimum contribution that we're calculating is about 2.5 million. That's based on our evaluation. I think ultimately the consolidated plan, when they complete their report later this fall, that's the actual statutory minimum contribution that applies. That will be in that neighborhood of the $2.5 million, what I'm showing here, which is, like I said, considerably lower than what than the funding policy you've adopted of funding to that 100% target. So with that, I'll turn it over for any questions.
So Jason, I got a
Yes.
question for you, and I bring this up pretty much every year.
Yep.
I'm gonna bring it up again. So right now, in 2009, we were funding at about 971,000. This past year, we're at 2.6, and we're going to 2.9. I'm assuming next year we'll probably go to about 3.3, my gut's saying it. I'm just throwing that number out there. Okay, could be wrong, whatever. Here's the question. We've been funding at 100% every year that we've been sitting on this council. But yet, our funding ratio has gone from 61% down to 56%. How do I explain to people when they ask why that's the situation? Because I can't give them an answer.
Well, in this case, we've, a big chunk of that increase is we lowered our expectation for our investment income. So we've essentially said that, whatever our liability was last year, which, the total liability last year was 61 million, we were understating it by, we don't necessarily know exactly what our investment return is going to be, but our expectation is that at 6.8%, we have a higher liability than what we had last year. And so that increases our contribution required. It actually immediately lowers our funded ratio because our liabilities have gone up because now we have a new expectation on our investment income. And so that's one piece of it. Another piece is that the way that the Illinois pension code is set up, it's an extremely backloaded contribution approach. So the current 2040 was put in place at the end of 2010. So it was a 30-year amortization. Following that approach, with the pension ramp in place, it's designed to sort of spin its wheels and stay at that same funded ratio for about the first 10 or 12 years of that amortization period. Just because the payments are designed to be small to begin with and increase by 3.5% each year. So part of it is just by the design. By funding to 100%, you're actually in a much better position than had you been funding to that 90% target. So effectively, in order for that the funded ratio to really, take a big step forward in terms of what the ratio is, larger contributions are needed, and that's part of lowering that investment return assumption. We'll get more money in the plan, and hopefully we exceed our 6.8% assumption. And by paying more now, it's going to save you money over the long term.
So here's the last question I'm gonna ask you.
Okay.
We have always been extremely on top of making sure we get our pensions funded at 100%. I guarantee you'll probably end up keep doing that going forward, because we always say, let's do 100%. And then we look at the numbers compared to other towns, and you're in charge of doing, actuary for other towns, as I know that as well. How realistic is it? How realistic do most of these cities and towns in the state of Illinois will hit their bogey of 100% funding by 2040?
To be honest, by the structure that's in place today, the chance of any fund following that structure and getting to 100% by 2040 is not real high. And the reason I say that is because the way it's set up, we're designed to get to 100% at 2040. So let's just fast forward. Let's say we stay on that track and we get to 2038 and the market has a negative 10% year. Well, you were at 90% trending towards 100% in 2 years. Well, your fund just took a 10% hit. And now your contribution requirement is going to skyrocket. And that's the only way you would be able to get to the 100% target at that point. So this is something I've long advocated for, an approach that doesn't fund to a specific point in time. There's no reason that your plan needs to be 100% funded at any particular point in time. But what you need to have is a plan, a funding policy that is with a short enough amortization period that you're constantly paying down unfunded liability as it arises. And historically, that hasn't been the case in Illinois. The amortizations have been far too long, which when the actuarial losses occur, it leads to significant decreases to your funded ratio. So unless a plan is above 90% funded right now, or 80s, upper 80s, the chances of them getting to 100% by 2040 is not very good, because the volatility that's going to arise as that amortization period gets shorter and shorter will just make it impossible for budgeting purposes. You're not going to be able to increase your contribution by 40% when you have a bad year.
Thank you.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but again, it ties into what Ted is asking here. But also over this period of time, Ted, you and I have been around here long enough to know they also, I don't want to say they forced, but they've had assumption changes. There were changes to life expectancy back a few years ago, which caused us to be funded less than we would have ordinarily. People are living longer. And this year it's the 7% to the 6.8%. So they keep making these changes. There was also some discussion at the state level that they would make tier 1, say make that go away, tier 2 go away, and everybody would be tier 1. I asked Jason to do the calculations there, which would also increase our contribution. So even though we're funding it at 100%, which I thank the council for doing that for us, they keep changing the bogey on us.
goalpost changes.
Which is very frustrating.
Yeah, the assumptions, those are like, a few years ago, we adopted the most recent the mortality tables. And people were just living longer than the tables from 10, 15 years ago. So some of that is just the natural, people are living longer than they had in the past. So, assumption changes, to me aren't, those are gonna happen. Sometimes it's gonna help you, sometimes it's gonna hurt you.
When has it helped us?
Well,
A period of time it hasn't. We're at
the
100%,
salary increase
yeah.
assumption have come down a little bit over time, so that's helped.
No, we're at 100%. I thought with going to the consolidated plan, it should have been less expenses, which I don't know.
We're still in the initial stages of
Okay, that
that.
hasn't hit yet? Okay.
Well, the expenses, the investment expenses are considerably lower than what they have been in the past. But, that's, for your plan, I don't know what the investment expenses are exactly, but, that's a couple $100,000 a year, maybe.
They were also slower in the consolidation. We were heavier in equities prior to the consolidation. And after the consolidation, they were taking baby steps and they had more in fixed income, which was earning really a negligible amount. So they haven't still wrapped up to where we were invested higher in the equity level before. So that, hopefully, they do seem to be getting closer and closer to that.
But I have to think that the increase, the biggest part has to be from some kind of like a COLA adjustment or something, correct?
Well, yeah, the cost of living adjustments that are in the Illinois Pension Code are,
What percent?
it's 3%, it's a 3% compound COLA.
Every year?
Every year.
So every
Not
2 years, it's 9%?
basically every year. If you retire at age 50, which a tier 1 police officer can, they don't get a COLA until age 55. But it's kind of an aggregate COLA. But effectively, it's a 3% compound COLA, and that that's a very expensive benefit. If someone is getting the average life expectancy is 84. If they retire at age 50, 30 adjustments at 3% per year. I mean, that's over a 100. That's compounding. It's over 100%. It's a 100% increase in their benefit during those 35 years. So that is part of the plan, and that is, by far one of the more expensive,
Pieces of all this.
provisions of the
Yes.
plan.
Yeah. No. One other thing, Jason, that I brought up when we had the meeting with the police pension board in the past, and you brought it up tonight, that we're only required by state law to be 90% funded. Again, thank you, council, for funding it at 100%, and I'm glad we've been continuing along that line. But I was reviewing your report this year, and I asked, I said, why is that you set that calculation in there? Why is that 90% not in here? And you indicated that the board asked you not to put that in this year, and then you were kind enough to refer me to the online link where I can find that at the state of Illinois.
Yeah.
Well, I did go through and do my homework on that, and I noticed last year, you did provide that report there, but it was dated November 23rd, which means we wouldn't even get that information till December 1st. And yet I'm responsible to the council for letting them know what we need to levy tax-wise for next year, and we're not even gonna get that
Yeah,
information.
that's all based on when the data is submitted. So if you want if you want the report sooner, we have to get the data sooner. It takes about 30 days from the date that the data is submitted. And I checked, it still has not been submitted for this year.
Getting you that information.
I assume it comes from the pension board. It's the DOI annual statement. And like I said, I checked and it doesn't look like the data has been submitted as of this year. So, I mean, we're October 8th or whatever it is today. It's probably not gonna, at this point, it doesn't look like it's gonna be much before that because we don't have the data.
Yeah, but at least you touched on it and gave us a little bit of parameters.
Yes,
You quoted
based
the
on our discussion, I wanted to.
2.5 million, is that against the 2.9 million net that you're reflecting in your report after the officer's contribution into the plan?
Yes, the 2.5 is the
net number?
the net number, yes.
Thank you.
On Schedule H, you have a amortization table of total unfunded liability. And
Yep.
it shows that it's going down very small
Yep.
increments in the beginning, but then it goes down in big increments towards the end.
Yes.
Is there a corresponding estimated contribution that's gonna be, I mean, you had to have an estimated contribution to get to this type of amortization table, I assume.
Well,
I mean,
this
just
is.
so that we, as a council, can look ahead and say, in 5 years, we're gonna be estimating that we're gonna have $5 million into the contribution or some type of number. And I'm just wondering, for us to follow the estimated amortization table, again, I assume there has to be some estimated contribution.
Well, you can, it's but if you break down, if you look, you go from $13 million in 2037 to $0. That's, let's say 12.8, that's 4 years. So that's a $3.2 million amortization payment on top of the normal cost, which is, roughly $1 million. So in those out years, those out years, and, you're talking, that's what, the million, that's today's dollars, so it's probably gonna be, 1.2 or 1.3 million just based on, how salaries increase, so, that's, $4.5-5 million contributions at least in those
And
years.
our job is to budget for these type of things, so I think that type of number would be helpful to us.
Yeah, I mean,
so
and
that
that's
we-
something that we can do. That's not, that's not part of our normal actuarial valuation. I mean, the amortization payment is easy because there's, we know what the unfunded liability is today, and we can show what the estimated payment schedule looks like. But there's other components to the normal cost, that are not factored in. So I can get a reasonable estimate, but anything more precise, we would have to run
It
some
changes
additional
every year, I get
calculations.
it.
Yeah.
Any other questions for our actuary tonight? Okay, Jason, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jason.
Next is our annual financial report for the year ending April 30th, 2024 from Sickage. Kellen, you ready?
Yep.
Thank you.
Kellen O'Malley with Sickage. Thanks for having me here this evening on behalf of Sickage. We issued 4 reports in this year's audit. We reviewed all of those reports during the finance committee meeting on September 3rd. The city is required to have an annual audit of the financial statements annually in accordance with Illinois compiled statutes. The annual financial report, or AFR, includes the financial statements of the city. Included in the AFR is our independent auditor's report, and that's the first item in the financial section of the AFR. In order to give an opinion on the financial statements, we need to follow two sets of standards. By the AICPA, which tell us the types of procedures that we must perform when conducting our audit. And then financial reporting standards issued by GASB. These set the rules for financial reports for local governments such as the city. I'm pleased to present an unmodified opinion, or also referred to as a clean opinion, on this year's financial statements. That's the highest level of assurance that we can provide on the city's financial statement, so congrats to the city. Immediately following the independent auditor's report is the management's discussion and analysis, or also referred to as MD&A. MD&A is an executive summary that is prepared by management. If you're going to read one thing within the report, highly recommend reviewing the management's discussion and analysis. It's going to provide you financial highlights as well as comparative data from this year and last year. Following the MD&As are basic financial statements. In the basic financial statements is the government-wide financial statements and the fund financial statements. Your government-wide financial statements, they're the consolidated financial statements. They include all of your funds. The fund financial statements account for all of your individual funds, and think of your individual funds as specific, each is its own business with its own financial statements accounting for the activity for that specific purpose. So your fund financial statements include all governmental funds, your water fund, which is a proprietary fund, and the police pension fund that is a fiduciary fund. There was a prior period adjustment in the fund financial statements this year in the general fund. That specifically relates to revenue recognition in the fund financial statements, which is a little bit different than revenue recognition in the government-wide financial statements. That's why there isn't a prior period adjustment in the government-wide financial statements. The item relates specifically to excess surplus for insurance that has always been accounted for but has been deferred and was considered unavailable. It now meets the criteria to be recognized as revenue and has been applied retroactively to adjust that. I lastly just want to thank Julie and Brian and the city for always being well prepared. The city's great to work with and always has all the information that we need to do our work and complete the audit in a timely manner. So if the city council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now.
Is on the future accounting pronouncements, is there anything out there that of significance that the city should be concerned with?
Nothing very significant on the horizon. There is next year there is a pronouncement that relates to compensated absences that will have to be implemented. Really, the only change there is that if you're not currently, if you are terminated and you have unused leave that is eligible to be paid out, that's what we would accrue on your financial statement. This standard would change that slightly to say, is there anything that you're accruing that's not getting paid out at termination that may be used? And we would have to come up with a management estimate as to what would be accrued as part of that. But I don't think it would have a material impact on the financial statements.
Thank you.
Yeah, as Kellen mentioned, he presented to admin finance at our last meeting. We had some great discussions. I'm very appreciative of that. And I just want to echo too the hard work that the staff puts in, weekly, daily, monthly, but then there's so much additional preparation that goes in to the audit. And, special shout out to Administrator Vanna and to Julie, who, along with the support of the rest of the staff, does an outstanding job. And Treasurer Mike Corin, who just does a good job.
And-
Deserve it. Julie's the one that gets all the credit.
And guys, isn't on top of it, isn't this like the 7th year in a row that we had a surplus that we transferred to capital improvement projects or something like that?
Well, that's on the agenda this evening, and there's always a different communication we have between auditing and budgeting.
Okay.
So if you were to just look at the audit, those numbers might be a little different in terms of where we ended up. But when the city council approves a budget every year, we've already gone through and updated numbers. So you're correct, and on the agenda tonight, there's a surplus of the
point
general
is-
fund to go to the capital projects fund. But again, that's based on the budgeting that was approved and not necessarily the audit.
The point is that we're pretty fiscally responsible, as I'd like to say at Darien. You know what I mean? So, thank you.
Part of that also has to do with the timing of when certain expenses
Correct.
hit, because Dan a lot of times is able to accelerate road programs into
Absolutely.
the current fiscal year from the subsequent fiscal year,
Right.
things like that.
Very much so.
Yeah, and I just want to thank Julie too and all the staff. I mean, the previous life, I was the point person with the auditor, so I know the amount of time and effort that goes in. So, I mean, they really deserve a lot of credit for everything they do.
And we only have one accountant on staff. We don't have backup
Yeah.
people. It's one. So thanks, Julie.
Great job, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
Okay.
Thank you,
Colin.
Colin.
Have a good night. Have a good evening. All right, we move to city clerk's report.
No report this evening.
City administrator's report.
Thank you. I have one report, just a reminder to the city council that the annual council goal setting workshop is scheduled for Wednesday, November 20th at 6:30. If you have any agenda items, please send those over to me. Typically, depending on the amount of items, we'll go through the agenda and try to do the best we can in terms of picking out the agenda items. And if you have something that's a little more detailed, don't just include the topic of the issue. Maybe you want to call me or give a couple other sentences with details of what you're actually looking for. And if you can get those to us by October 31st, that will give us enough time to make sure everything's in the packet appropriately.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Department head questions. Oh, that's right, they moved over here tonight. Department head information questions. Chief, Dan, do you have anything?
At this time, no.
Joe, I have a
Jerry?
I do want to let the council know the, one of the requests I had last year in the budget process was for a big stormwater project in my ward. Had a lot of flooding in one block in particular, and it was just completed this past week. Just want to let everyone know that, 13 homes were identified as part of this project, and 12 homeowners participated, which just shows you the need that was really there. And actually, the one resident, it was actually in front of the one storm sewer that he had already, so, because of the walkway that cuts through our neighborhood. So, clearly needed. The work was done very well, Dan. I have to compliment the whole crew on what they did. It took longer than I think anybody anticipated, but it was a very long project. I mean, it was like almost 3 football fields of sewer that were put in. So it really, I think it's gonna help with flooding issues. I think there's gonna be added benefits with the ice on the street, ice on sidewalks. We had quite a few water main breaks over the last year, so we'll see if we have any benefit with that this year in terms of less water main breaks, which I think we are, because of all that standing water is now gonna be eliminated. So I just wanna let everybody know it was something that was included in the budget, and it was performed and completed, and just, if you can add anything from your end, Dan, but it went very well.
You know what, and these are the types of projects that we thrive to, basically get throughout town whenever there's an opportunity. And I know there's a couple segments within your ward that may be introduced for next budget season. And based on the timing, based on the schedule, we will try to utilize in-house, use our guys to the best ability that we have with the machinery and the labor force and the expertise. And this is where we really have the opportunity to shine, number one. And the reason for that is we have the equipment that the city council has provided us. We have the manpower. and we have a great department that, you know, there's some real leaders, if you want to say, that are aggressive to, you know, provide that service for these types of projects. So I will pass that on to.
And really, the use of the Vector was incredible. That
I mean,
to dig the sewer lines on everyone's property, you know, you're only looking at this much of a, you know, hole that needs to be dug, so you're not tearing up a bunch of roots from trees, so the repairs are a lot less. So, I mean, I think people saw firsthand the benefits of that as well, that you're not tearing up a lot more property than you have to, so the repair cost is gonna go down. And I just think with, you know, maybe if we have less water main breaks, I think it's gonna pay some dividends down the road.
I agree with that, whether it's from a liability standpoint or a
Correct.
safety standpoint, it will save. And that Jetter Vector truck has just been, you know, a godsend, and especially with everything that's in the ground today. And we encourage any of the elected officials to come out while we're doing some of these projects, really to see, you know, the equipment and the labor that's, you know, goes into some of these projects. And, you know, we got Jerry a lounge chair that we're gonna put on the corner over there. So now that he's retired and he has nothing else to do, so no.
Well, I actually laughed to Dan one day. I felt like Patton in the movie, you know, in the movie Patton when he's directing the tanks. I mean, the city was there, Suburban Concrete was there. I mean, it was just, there were trucks everywhere. I mean, it was incredible, the coordination that was going on, but it was, I actually got a call one morning, someone said there was like 20 trucks lined up on 79th Street. It was all the asphalt. I mean, it was just, I think he said they poured 400 tons of asphalt.
It's about right, yeah. It was,
The numbers were insane.
You should have invited us over for a party.
It was, I'll tell you, the coordination that was going on, and then I have to take my hat off to Suburban, the job they did, and also the last pavers. The way they coordinated it, it was just, I think they did the entire strip in 4 hours, which was just incredible.
kudos to the vendors that we have as well. I mean, very hardworking vendors, dedicated, and they get the job done, in and out.
So pass it along, but
I will,
thank you.
definitely. Thank you.
Dan, I think Jerry made a good comment about, you know, trying to express to the residents, like the Vector truck, of it saves time and money. As the council is aware, in our strategic plan, we want to do some public service announcements, so residents get to see things like this. And I think Dan and I talk all the time, and I'll say, Dan, did we get pictures or get it on tape? No, maybe the next project. Well, this time, we're gonna really do that and get some things on for residents to see.
Right.
Put some videotape
Well,
out
then
there.
the guys told me too that on Sawyer, they were doing something and they identified a gas line that they didn't even know was there.
Right, that happens, yes.
Right, so by using the Vector, I mean, God would have known if you were using a backhoe there that you would have dug up that gas line. I mean, so,
And in the past, we've done that, whether it's electric lines and, you know, usually the operator's always safe in a machine when he goes through a power line, just for the simple reason that he's grounded, so. But nonetheless, you don't need to have any hazards.
safety, absolutely.
Dan, I got something for you on we were driving yesterday, my wife and I, and she mentioned how much she likes the water features at Cass and
I'm sorry, Joy, I didn't hear
Plainfield
you.
Road. On the west side of the street, not the east, okay, so we're good, all right?
Someone's trying to get some.
Only one more to go, right, Dan?
One more feature to go, it's,
Water.
This is volcanoes, we're not.
You know what, for this winter, what we wanna try to do is, you know, if anybody wants to drive along with us during a snowstorm, I think that would really be, you know, it's, I'll call it exciting. I've been there, done that. But for people actually to visualize what we're doing and how far that snow is flying and what it can do, it's really just, you know, like, wow. So, anyway, that's for upcoming for this December. And you can see what the inside of the trucks look like, really, while they're operating. Better than the squad cars. Oh, yeah.
So you're used to sitting in the back of the squad.
That's right, I have to leave the parking lot.
All right. Treasurer's report. Treasurer Corrin.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, should have a corrected copy of the warrant in front of you. Tonight, I'm requesting council's approval, warrant number 242511, the amount of $406,716.11 from the listed funds and payroll for the periods ended September 19th as well as October 3rd in the amount of $683,512.93 for a total be approved of $1,090,229.04.
Do I have a motion to approve? Alderperson Sullivan, second by Alderman Belzak. And the roll, please.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
Legansky.
Aye.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Zampanato.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
7 ayes.
The ayes have it. Motion passes. Standing committee reports. Alderman Belzak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The next Municipal Services Committee meeting will be on the 28th of this month, October 28th at 6 p.m. in council chambers.
Person Sullivan.
The next Administrative Finance Committee meeting will be on Monday, November 4th at 6 p.m. in the first floor conference room of City Hall.
And the police committee will meet on Monday, October 21st at 6 p.m. across the parking lot in the police training room. Pending agenda items. We now have a spot for questions and comments, agenda-related items. This is an opportunity for the public to make comments or ask questions on any item on the council's agenda. Also, a 3-minute limit. Ron, come on up. And just state your name.
Sure. Ron Price, 773 Lester Lane. And I'm here to make a comment on item, I think it's 17B. I think it's later in discussion, a new business for raising the old dental office down. We live on Lester Lane. We lived there about 25 years, which for those of you who may not be familiar, Lester runs right beside the property. It's at the head end, we're all the way at the far end. And we've driven by that property probably tens of thousands of times, 25 years. And we've really watched the property continue. I think it's been vacant the entire time that my family has lived there. And we've watched it go downhill, and especially over the last couple of years, where it has deteriorated down to where there's vandalism, broken windows. I think you've seen the report. And so I just wanted to come and say I want to thank Dan Gombeck and his team and the code enforcement team for their quick action. To, when there's been problems with the building and it needed to have someone look at it. It's been quick attention, and I just wanted to come and say we're in support of seeing that that structure go, because I think it's long overdue, and the lack of action and support just seems to be continuing. It doesn't look like it's going to get better. So, as a resident, wanted to come and say it would be great, and hope for your consideration it could be approved. Thank you.
Okay. Ron, thank you for coming out.
You got another?
Oh, we got one more. I'm sorry.
Sure, why not? Good evening. My name is Phil Litchfield. I'm Ron and Jackie Price's neighbor. I just want to echo everything Ron said. I've lived in Darien since '93, but we moved to that property in, I want to say, 2019. And I actually made a 911 call because I saw someone actually running in and breaking into it. And I believe there was an arrest from that. So again, I didn't see that in the documentation. I wanted to, again, really emphasize that this is a concern that we have on the street. This is, again, I've never really known any issues in Darien before, but to the extent there is any sort of magnet for just shadiness, it's certainly probably that building. So again, I want to reiterate everything Ron said, and thank you for all your efforts. Thank you.
I'm going to speak on behalf of the council. We're in such a day and age, but it's so easy to make a phone call or an email. We're grateful to have you folks take time out of your busy lives here to come here to express. So thank you very much. And then we go to old business, but there being no old business, we go to the consent agenda. And I will read off the items on this evening's consent agenda. Item A, a consideration of a motion to grant a waiver of the raffle license bond requirement for the Darien Chamber of Commerce. Item B, consideration of a motion to grant a waiver of the raffle license bond requirements for the West Suburban Humane Society. Item C, a consideration of a motion granting a waiver of the $50 a day fee for the temporary liquor license for the Darien Swim and Recreation Club. Item D, a consideration of a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute an intergovernmental agreement for the reciprocal reporting of criminal offenses committed by students between the Board of Education of Hinsdale Township High School, District Number 86, and the City of Darien. Item E, a consideration of a motion to approve a resolution to approve the expenditure of equitable sharing funds up to $14,000 to enter into an agreement with the Industrial Organizational Solutions to conduct testing to establish an eligibility list from which to hire police officers to fill anticipated openings. Item F, a consideration of a motion to approve an ordinance authorizing the sale of personal property owned by the City of Darien. Item G, a consideration of a motion approving a transfer from the general fund to the capital projects fund of $2 million. Do I have a motion to approve? Alderman Luganski, second by Alderman Belzak, and the roll, please.
Leganski.
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
Stompanato.
Aye.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
7 ayes.
And the motion passes. New business. Item A, a consideration of a motion to approve a resolution approving the city's strategic plan for 2025 through 2029. Do I have any questions? Do I have a motion to approve? Alderman Stompanato, seconded by Alderperson Sullivan. Now the roll.
Stompanato.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Leganski.
Aye.
Shower.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
7 ayes.
Item B, a consideration of a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with KLF Enterprises Incorporated for the raising of the existing building and parking lot located at 1225 Plainfield Road, pins 0928410001 and 0928410043, as per the schedule of pricing in an amount not to exceed $33,000. Do I have a motion to approve? By Alderman Shower, second by Alderman Luganski. Discussion.
Dan, I just want to say, last 2 years trying to get this thing done, thank you. We've been really going to town on it, and you came to fruition on this. I just want to say thanks ahead of time.
Thank you, appreciate the comments.
Dan, would you mind just taking just a couple minutes, kind of express what you talked about earlier, just so for people at home can, know exactly what we're talking about here tonight?
Sure. So the property tonight is, in front of you is 1225 Plainfield Road. For the residents out there, it's the most blighted building on Plainfield Road, just west of Cass on the south side there, and currently it's boarded up. So I'm gonna go through this real quick, but in a nutshell, the property itself, 20, 30 years ago was used as an orthodontist office. The orthodontist office was a decree by the courts that the owner had won through the court system on a zoning case. That underlying zoning is what's referred to in R3. Fast forward, I believe probably for the last 15 years, the building, if not more, the building has been vacant. While it's been vacant, the city has taken over on some of the grass responsibilities between two different owners. And we filed liens on it, so on and so forth. So fast forwarding again, the most recent owner, there's been additional issues that have been identified. Those issues stem from vandalism, biohazards that were identified more recently, and some more vandalism again throughout the building itself. While the police were involved also with us, we did get an administrative search warrant. That administrative search warrant basically gave us the right to go in there and to conduct an inspection of when the building was open. The code enforcement as well as the building division basically walked throughout the building, identified the deficiencies. A lot of them were code violations stemming from electrical to plumbing, efficiency as far as energy, so on and so forth. The list goes on. Also, what was the most hazardous item was there was water in the basement approximately 2 to 3 feet. And obviously, if there was an issue where somebody had fallen down the stairs, no one would have ever known because it is dark in there and you could not tell which way is up or down. Fast tracking again. The city ordered a board up service the first time around. Second time around, additional vandalism was found. Again, the entire building was then boarded up. From there, we were moving to what's referred as a fast track demolition. Fast track demolition in the state of Illinois gives a municipality the right to basically move forward with a demolition and or raising of a property in such a condition. The condition based, the state statute states that the city or municipality has a 120-day window to get it completed. Prior to that, there was notices involving legal notices as well as notices to the owner. This owner is in Florida as an absentee landowner. He is in Florida. Again, he had 30 days to respond. And by him responding, we would have been through a countersuit, lawsuit, in which case there was no response. So here we are today. City staff went out for bids on the building. Asbestos was identified in there as well, so there is some remediation that needs to happen simultaneously with the raising of it. And here we are today at the $33,000 plus a $5,000 contingency in the event that we find that something that was unidentified in the ground. Once we're done with this process, to date, we had approximately $12,000 in liens, fines. That was paid about a month and a half ago, I believe it was. To date, we have about $1,500 in legal fees outstanding in conjunction with the asbestos report. So we're at approximately $5,000, and for tonight, with the additional potential of $38,000. We'll have $43,000. We will be charging administrative fees to the actual owner, which will be putting a lien on. It'll be an invoice followed by a lien simultaneously upon the project's completion.
Any other questions, folks?
Dan, are there any concerns about, or is there anything the city's gonna need to do once we've demolished it? I mean, it's gonna be flat on the ground? I mean, do we need to do anything else?
No, again, everything's gonna be removed, the building, the foundation, backfilled with soils that'll be certified, compacted, parking lot will be removed, and at the end of the day, it's gonna be seed and some topsoil, seed, and straw.
Great.
Okay, with no other questions, the roll, please.
Shower.
Aye.
Legansky.
Aye.
Kenny.
Aye.
Gustafson.
Aye.
Belzak.
Aye.
Stompanato.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
7 ayes.
And the motion passes. Questions, comments, and announcements of a general nature? Anybody have anything to share with council? Alderwoman Sullivan.
I just wanted to point out, because I know we had the strategic plan on the agenda, and it, we approved it without much discussion, but just wanted to backpedal and say, like, clearly, this was a year-long process almost, like, since the beginning of the year. Discussions, meetings, workshops, community members involved, staff members involved, elected officials involved. I was appreciative of the Park District coming tonight and, taking the time to read through the report, which I hope other community members and other organizations do as well. It's on the website. And make commentary as it relates to their organization, their entity. And that I'm really proud that we put the time and dedicated the resources and dollars to do this for this 4-year plan that'll basically start in 2025. And, I look forward to us all collectively being a part of it.
With that, I'm looking for motion to adjourn. Alderman Shower, second by Alderman Stompanato. All in favor?
Aye.
Good night,
Nice job,
folks.
Joe.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well done, well done.
Good job.